This is normally the next step I take when preparing an image for internet, printing, whatever. Um, there are lots of little dust and fibers that appear on these things, whether or not they're on the painting, or like little raised texture spots, or on my scan bed. Like, I can clean my scan bed for days, and I still end up with a stray cat hair or even fibers from whatever I cleaned it with. Like, it's ridiculous. So I normally have to clean up the scans. Again, I am using Photoshop CS5. Um, I don't know how long they've had the spot healing brush. I actually just found it. Uh, but it is now my best friend. It does have a little bit of quirks sometimes in an area because it takes from like the pixels like in the surrounding areas and it tries to remap what it thinks it should be. But since it's still computer, it's still computer error. Like you can see in the horn, it can kind of put a little divot there. So you can easily screw things up with it, but it's still kind of hard, and it's easy to correct. You can just step back and try again, or resize it so it's easier to get in like a little nook or cranny. Um, I have done this two different ways. Like before I started using the spot healing brush, I would actually use the little paint drop tool, pick up the color from whatever around the area, and then use the paintbrush and paint on it, which you don't get a nice effect. You kind of lose that natural gradient of the pixels, and it can be ugly, but that is in many other programs. Like if you don't have a spot healing brush, you can use that, and you can get it to look normal and natural. Sorry my voice isn't really paired up with what's going on. I'm looking at this tiny little screen while I'm recording my voice over, and it's hard to tell what exactly is going on. It looks like I'm still on the spot healing brush. Like if I realize I go over to the dropper at some point, I will say something. But you get to see my paintings enlarged. It's not very pretty. This painting was only 11 by 14. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just special and I have these problems. Like, I've heard of other artists complaining about having issues with dust and hair before, but like I just seem to have an abundance of it. But I always resize if I run into an issue. I resize the little tool because you can see it kind of was pulling in the color from the area right next to it. So I normally make it smaller to get in there better. Or if you just can't get that to work, just use the dropper tool and drop some color in with the paintbrush. And once you're zoomed in like this, it is very easy to just stay there for hours just fixing everything. Even if it doesn't really affect the quality of the print, you're just in there in these little enlarged state, and you can see my thumbprint in there because I always finger blot. It's like you can't fix everything. You'll be in there forever. And a lot of things, they don't actually need fixed. They just look like they need fixed because you're really zoomed in. And sometimes you don't even notice things until you zoom in. Like, I would honestly zoom in on every picture and just go all around it and see if you see anything just out of place, because I might not have even noticed this cat hair. It was probably on my scan bed. And, if I printed it out later, like, I probably would have noticed it, but, like, looking at it on the computer, I didn't until I zoomed in. because it is kind of light, but it, but it's all there, oh high and in your face, and yeah. But with the spot healing brush, like you keep some of this original texture and like it looks more natural. Like I love it. Like the worst thing in the world is to upload something on the internet for prints or print it out and it's like there's this giant ugly hair in it. But yeah, I zoom in on everything and do a little walkabout trying to correct anything in my scans. Like a lot of it isn't that big of a deal because it is probably even just texture from wood, whatnot, or the gesso. I never actually heard that word pronounced. I just buy it off the internet. I don't know, share your stories if you've had terrible things in your paintings before. Comment below. This is probably typical for most artists. Like, they'll go through and fix things or whatever. Like, seriously, do quality control, make sure everything's great before you even put it on the internet. You want your work to look as best as it can. Like, I know I have a lot of new people to art and people wanting to learn to do things and draw following me, and that's awesome. And, like, I want to teach you guys. And, like, I know this is kind of probably, like, beginner stuff with, like, for a lot of people, but I think it's important. Your art is a piece of you, and you want it to be represented as best as possible, whether it be in print form or on the internet. You gotta respect yourself, you gotta respect your art. And scan in everything you've done, even if you don't think it's that good, it's still record keeping. Like, you can look back and see how you progressed. Um, don't just post things on the internet either that are just crumpled up pieces of paper, actually try to take the time. You might not have a scanner, but you can get like a cheap scanner. And make sure you scan in your files high res, like in case you lose it or whatnot. You at least have a record of that. You can reproduce it if you have a high res file later on down the road. It is important. Most artists honestly make most of their money off of prints, and having a good file to work from helps immensely. Like, you don't want to have a little tiny resolution file and all you can make is probably like a art card print. And even then it might be a little fuzzy if you have really low resolution. I know some artists do also, instead of using scanner, they use photos, like for really large works. I never got the hang of it, and I always have crappy photos for printmaking. I don't know how they do it. I might need like a better lens or something. I don't know how to mess with the resolution of my camera. Like, it makes things really big but low res. But the printer's, well, but the picture itself is like 40 inches. I don't get that. Like, it looks good shrunken down, but I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, but hopefully I have helped someone out there, and good luck.